Hi, I'm Charlie Bros. I'm here with Mark Knudsen, and you're watching Disability Landscape. Mark, who's our guest today?
Yeah, our guest today, I should say, is, I, hopefully I get the title right, Marketing Director and Business Development Manager at the Institute of Community Integration. And when he's not doing that, he's also a filmmaker. I'd like to introduce Jerry Smith. Hey, Jerry.
Hi,
Did I get your title correct? I hope.
you did. It's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got a few things that you got going there and that. And why don't we first start off? Well, let's actually first start off and tell us a little bit about the Institute of Community and Integration. I had not heard of it previously. A friend of mine told me about you and ICI. Why don't you tell us a little bit about ICI?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thank you for asking. You know, we are something of a well-kept secret. The Institute on Community Integration is what we call a UCED, a University Center of Excellence in Developmental Disabilities. And there is one such UCED in every state and a number of the territories across our country. So we've been around since 1985. So we're celebrating 35 years now. And you know, we do a variety of things, but we don't really do direct service. We're research, training, outreach institute, and we comprise between 4 and 6 or 7 centers at any one time. And those centers have different focus areas. So there's early childhood, there's community living and employment, global disability rights. At any one time, there's probably 70 programs that are active at ICI. So we do a lot with a lot of people, and we work very much in partnership with the community. That might be the community here in Minnesota, it might be in New York or California, it might be Armenia, all over the place. But we work side by side with community members to help make full inclusion a reality.
Okay.
So, going through like the ICI website, you have many topics like what the early intervention is and what is autism. Can you give a little background on that?
Well, I guess we have some programmatic focus areas to help divide our work and give it a little more meaning. So early intervention, that will include early childhood development and intervention. So we have a center, the National Center on Educational Outcomes, extremely well known nationally. They've been around for over 30 years. So they do work on making sure schools are accessible to all students with disabilities. They do a lot on making sure assessments are accessible. We also have the TIES Center, which I can't tell you exactly what TIES stands for now. It's quite a long acronym.
Yeah,
But also working on inclusion for kids with the most significant disabilities, again, working toward full inclusion. We have a number of researchers that work on autism prevalence studies. So you may have heard numbers like 1 in 42 children. Those come from Jennifer Hall Landy and other colleagues at ICI who explore prevalence of autism. My goodness, there are so many other programs in that area. We also look at prevalence of individuals generally with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that's a slice of what early intervention looks like at ICI.
Okay.
Okay. And then also, you mentioned on the website, you talk about education, policy, and practice. And there, it says, is inclusion a civil right for students with disabilities?
Yeah, I mean, we very much look at inclusion as a civil rights issue. And that really is in the DNA of ICI, and that's something that distinguishes us, I think, from a lot of other university centers of excellence. When these programs generally were started, not just early childhood, but developmental disabilities across the board, they started in hospitals and medical schools. And it was, back in the day where we were trying to cure disability. And when Bob Brunings, former president of the university, when he started ICI, he and his colleagues really looked at disability as a civil and human rights issue. And their focus was not about cure or repair, it was about inclusion. Back in the day, it was integration, and I think we've kind of outgrown that title. We're not just concerned about people being integrated in a community physically. We're much more interested in inclusion and belonging and being welcomed.
Okay.
So in schools, that means being part of the fabric of the classroom, not being pulled out for special services, but making services available to everybody.
Well, just kind of, with Mark and I's background, we both went to a high school that was, yes, integrated with disabled students, but it was still a school within the city where they sent basically all students with disabilities. So it was integration without being truly integrated. Whereas today, students are encouraged to go to their neighborhood school or, ones close in their district.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've certainly made a lot of progress, but I'm not telling you anything new in that we've got so much more progress to make. It varies sometimes by zip code, varies by school district, varies by the passion of the teachers and the power and advocacy of the parents. But that means so much to many of my colleagues. That is their career, to make schools inclusive.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and you also cover community living and employment. What then is a direct support professional, and how do they act? What are their actions?
Well, what a great question. Well, as we're recording this is DSP Recognition Week. Direct support professionals. What a great title that's also maybe a well-kept secret, not very well understood. So we look at the direct support professional as that individual who should be highly trained, highly knowledgeable, highly caring, who provides a variety of services to people with intellectual and other disabilities. Sometimes we hear about PCAs, personal care attendants.
Yeah.
Sure.
DSPs do that, but DSPs also do the work that maybe an LPN, maybe even an RN would do.
Okay.
They will be passing medications, maybe giving shots. They facilitate relationships in the community. They make sure somebody gets the job that they need. It's a complex, important job that is woefully underpaid and underrecognized.
Yeah, that's. I definitely agree with the lower pay part
Yeah,
of it.
PCAs these days are in short supply and in high demand, and it's been difficult getting quality people into that position, and a little better pay would definitely assist that.
And then,
Yeah, it sure would.
oh, I'm sorry
I
about
know
that.
the average pay for a DSP in this country is $12 an hour. And let's be honest, that job deserves $20 an hour.
Exactly.
And we should be getting the people that are really good. $20 an hour, we're not going to see that revolving door of staff coming and going, which is so disruptive and so expensive. But instead, treat professionals like professionals, give them a career, something that they can grow into, and make it better for everybody who receives supports. It's so difficult, right? It's such a cost-effective thing. If you paid people twice as much, you'd eventually see that return. You'd see that return on investment in better lives, less disruption. But it's so hard to look past each quarter, especially when it's a political issue.
And especially like with PCAs, for people who really aren't familiar with PCAs and that, people kind of think, well, all they're doing is maybe doing the clothing, the bathing, those physical kind of activities. But like you've mentioned, just in general with DSPs, it really takes someone genuinely who cares, and you just can't show up to the job and just put in a day's work. You really got to be there and be a caring person to be able to do those functions.
Absolutely right. It is such a critical job, and it's upsetting that sometimes jobs that are the most important, the most personal, the most significant, get short shrift, and they're considered caretaking jobs, and
Exactly.
almost like it's a charity.
Yeah.
No, it's not. This is an accommodation that needs to be made, and it's better for everybody when we make accommodations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And now under the next thing too, I noticed where you guys talk about global disability rights and inclusion, and under that you have mentioned how is Armenia training teachers in inclusive education.
We have, yeah, I mentioned we have many centers that comprise the Institute, and one of those centers is a global resource center on disability and inclusion.
Okay.
And my colleagues, Brian Abian and Renata Tika, run that center, and they do inclusion work all over the world. And one of the projects was in Armenia. They were there 2 or 3 years ago working with a university in Armenia, helping to develop curricula so people who are going into the field of disability or special education really know what inclusion means. And by imparting, not that we have all the answers in the US because we don't,
No. Yeah.
but by imparting a lot of what we've learned over 40 years, hopefully they could leapfrog some of our mistakes. So they do just amazing work, and we gain so much by having international colleagues come here and inform us what we could be doing better.
Okay. Um, One of the other last topics here is data informed policy and practice. What does that entail? How does that work out?
Data-informed policy and practice. It really speaks to ensuring that the work that we do, the information that we provide is evidence-based.
Ah, okay.
We hear a lot about information that's backed up by research, and anybody can say that. But to really have evidence, to do empirical studies, that's, I think, what distinguishes a lot of our work.
Okay.
We have data that backs up what we're talking about. We do a lot of hardcore bench science at ICI, and that allows us to go to the legislature and say, we know this. We know that children should be included. We know that DSP should be paid more, but here's why we know it. Here's the evidence. We can show the research.
So it's been researched, and you're not just throwing out information nilly-willy. You have evidence to back up what you're telling people and giving them advice on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's important to have the facts. I know science and facts maybe aren't as popular today as they should be, but they matter greatly.
Okay.
Okay. Now I don't know if this is necessarily switching away from ICI, but you're involved in filmmaking, so we're curious on what is involved there.
Well, yeah, and it's all part of the work we do at ICI. So
Okay.
it's
Okay.
for anybody that asks, I say this has just been the best place to make a career. And one of the things that we have done, outreach is a big part of the work. So we have people that are doing that hard research, that are doing longitudinal data sets that go for decades, publishing in peer-reviewed journals, but also making content that's really accessible to people. And one of the most ways to make information accessible is through film. And not just training, but doing something that hopefully captures the audience's imagination. So I've been really lucky to do documentary work while being at ICI. We did a piece actually on the direct support workforce just last year called Invaluable. And again, a wonderful opportunity to share some of our research, but to share it in a way through personal stories, people who work as DSPs, people who hire and fire DSPs, and then show the story nationally. What does it mean? What is this workforce? What needs to happen to make it more professional and to provide better services? So yeah, filmmaking has just been a really nice complement to the outreach work that we do, and we continue to do it. Pete McCauley, a local filmmaker and media producer, joined us last year, and he's amazing. And we hope to continue doing great work for years to come.
That sounds great because it is good to give visual backup or education to people. It's a way of showing here's how we do it. It's better than seeing it on a piece of paper.
That's right, and that's what makes your show work as well. It's one thing to tell people it or to put it in a paper, and papers are great, but to have a conversation about it where you can see faces makes a lot of difference. I mean, stories matter,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
the more
and-
stories we can tell that are authentic, the better.
And a lot of people are visual learners in absorbing information, and it's great to see examples put before them to to kind of get the point across.
Yeah, me included.
Well, we are wrapping it up here, and we are pretty much done. I wish we had more time, Jerry, so you could go back behind you and grab one of your guitars and maybe play a song for us. But unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for you, I don't know. However you look at it, we are out of time. Once again, I want to thank you for your time, Jerry Smith from the Institute of Community and Integration.
Yep. Jerry, thank you for joining us today. It's great talking to you. I'm Charlie Burrows. He's Mark Knutson. And this has been Disability Landscape. We'll see you next time.